Step into limitless love, light, and joy with me right now. Not tomorrow, not when everything is perfect, but in this very breath you are taking. My dear, just pause for a moment. Take a slow, gentle breath in and let it fall out of you without effort. There is nothing you need to fix right now. There is nowhere else you need to be. And there is nothing about you that needs to be different in order to begin feeling better. I want you to feel that, truly feel that. Because for so long, you may have believed that love, light, and joy are something you must earn, something you arrive at after you've healed enough, achieved enough, or proven yourself enough. But what if I told you that what you're seeking has never been waiting ahead of you? What if it has been quietly sitting within you, waiting for your permission to be felt? Let me ask you something, sweetheart. How long have you been postponing your happiness? How long have you been telling yourself, I'll feel better when? I'll be at peace when? I'll finally relax when the money comes, when the relationship works, when the circumstances change. And yet, here you are, still waiting, still searching, still wondering why peace feels just out of reach. Take a breath. What if the reason it feels out of reach is not because it's far away, but because you've been looking in the wrong direction? You see, my dear, love, light, and joy are not destinations. They are states of being. They are not something the world gives to you. They are something you allow yourself to feel regardless of the world. And I know that might feel difficult to accept because you've been conditioned, taught, trained to believe that your emotions are responses to your environment. If things go well, you feel good. If things go wrong, you feel bad. But what if that's not the full truth? What if your emotional state is not just a reaction, but a creation? Imagine, just for a moment, that within you exists a quiet, steady light. Not a loud, explosive light, but a soft, warm glow. A glow that has always been there, even in your hardest moments, even when you felt lost, even when you felt broken, even when you felt like giving up. That light never left you. It simply became harder to feel. Beneath the noise, the fear, the expectations, and the constant thinking. And now, you are being invited back to it. Not by force, not by pressure, but by awareness. Because awareness is where everything begins. Take another slow breath. I want you to gently notice how you feel right now, without judging it. Are you tired? A little heavy? Maybe restless or uncertain? That's okay. You don't need to push those feelings away. You don't need to fix them. Because here's something very important I want you to understand. Raising your energy is not about rejecting how you feel. It's about meeting yourself where you are and choosing softly to shift your attention, not all at once, not dramatically, but gently, like turning your face toward the sun. You don't force the warmth. You simply allow yourself to receive it. And this is where your power begins. Because the moment you realize that you can choose where your attention rests is the moment you begin to step into a different experience of life. Let me show you something. When you focus on what is missing, your body responds with tension. When you focus on what could go wrong, your breath becomes shallow. When you replay pain, your energy contracts. But when you begin to place your attention on something softer, something kinder, something even slightly more peaceful, your body responds differently. Your breath deepens. Your shoulders soften. your mind begins to quiet. And in that space, something opens. That opening is where love enters. That opening is where light becomes visible. That opening is where joy begins to rise. Not as excitement, but as a quiet sense of I am okay. And my dear, that feeling is everything. Because from that feeling, everything else grows. You don't build a joyful life by chasing joyful experiences. You build it by becoming someone who allows joy, even in small, ordinary moments. Let me ask you something again. When was the last time you allowed yourself to feel okay without needing a reason? Not happy because something happened, but simply okay, calm, present, at ease in your own body. It may have been a long time, but that doesn't mean it's gone. It simply means you've been distracted from it. And now you are remembering. You are remembering that your energy is not fixed. It is fluid, responsive, alive. And today, right now, you are choosing to raise it, not by force, but by returning to yourself. Take a slow breath in again. And this time, I want you to imagine that with this breath, you are inviting in light, not a blinding light, but a soft, golden warmth. Let it fill your chest. Let it expand gently. And as you exhale, imagine releasing just a little bit of heaviness. You don't have to release everything, just a little. That's enough. Because transformation doesn't happen in one giant leap. It happens in small, loving shifts. And every time you choose to soften instead of tighten, every time you choose to breathe instead of hold, every time you choose to trust instead of fear, you are raising your energy. You are stepping into a different version of yourself, not a new person, but a truer one, a lighter one, a more open one. And here's something beautiful I want you to understand. The world you experience begins to reflect the energy you carry, not instantly, not perfectly, but gradually, consistently, quietly. When you begin to feel more at ease, life starts to feel less overwhelming. When you begin to feel more open, opportunities begin to appear. When you begin to feel more loving, connections begin to deepen. It's not magic in the way you may have imagined. It's alignment. It's resonance. It's you finally matching the frequency of what you've been longing for. Because love, light, and joy are not outside of you. They are states you tune into. And today, you are tuning in, even if it's just a little, even if it's just for a moment. That moment matters. That moment counts. And I want you to be very gentle with yourself here. You don't need to sustain this feeling perfectly. You don't need to stay high vibe all the time. That idea, that pressure, only creates more resistance. Instead, you simply return, again and again, like coming home. You drift, and then you return. You forget, and then you remember. You tighten, and then you soften. This is the rhythm of growth. This is the rhythm of becoming. And you are right on time, exactly where you need to be, even if it doesn't feel like it. Even if your mind tells you otherwise, trust that something within you is already shifting, because you are here, listening, breathing, opening. Because you see, my dear, the moment you begin to raise your energy, even slightly, something very subtle starts to happen within you. It's almost as if a quiet rearrangement begins, not outside of you first, but inside. Your thoughts begin to soften. Your reactions begin to slow. Your need to control everything begins to loosen its grip. And at first, this can feel unfamiliar, even uncomfortable, because for so long, your system has been used to tension, to effort, to trying to fix things, trying to understand everything, trying to make life happen on your timeline. So when you begin to step into a softer state, when you begin to allow instead of force, there may be a part of you that asks, is this safe? Take a breath. That question is not weakness, it's conditioning. It's the echo of all the times you felt like you had to be alert, prepared, guarded. But right now, in this moment, you are safe to soften. You are safe to let go, even if just a little. Because raising your energy is not about becoming someone else. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to tighten. Before you learned to doubt yourself, before you believed that struggle was the only path forward, you were open, you were present, you allowed yourself to feel without overanalyzing every emotion. And that version of you still exists. It has never left. It has only been waiting patiently for you to return. Let me share something with you. Have you ever noticed how a seed grows? It doesn't force itself through the soil. It doesn't panic because it's still underground. It doesn't compare its timeline to the seed next to it. It simply grows quietly, steadily, in perfect timing. Even when nothing is visible on the surface, something powerful is happening beneath. Roots are forming, strength is building, life is preparing to emerge. And, my dear, you are no different. Just because you cannot yet see the full expression of your joy, your abundance, your peace, does not mean it isn't already unfolding within you. In fact, the very moment you choose to raise your energy, even slightly, you are watering that seed. You are giving it the exact conditions it needs to grow. But here's where many people become discouraged. They expect immediate, visible results. They look for proof. They ask, where is it? Why hasn't it happened yet? And in that questioning, in that doubt, they unknowingly return to a lower state of energy. Not because they've done anything wrong, but because they've forgotten that growth is often invisible before it becomes visible. So let me gently remind you, you are not behind. You are not missing anything. And you are not doing this wrong. You are in a process, a beautiful, unfolding process. And your only role is not to force the outcome, but to remain in alignment with the feeling of what you are becoming. Let me say that again, softly. You are not here to chase what you want. You are here to become the version of yourself that naturally receives it. And that shift, that subtle but powerful shift, changes everything. Because when you are constantly asking, when will it happen? Your attention stays on lack, on absence, on what is not here yet. But when you begin to ask, who am I becoming right now? Who am I choosing to be in this moment? Your attention shifts inward to your state, to your energy, to your presence. And this is where your power lives. Because your identity, your sense of self, is what shapes your experience of life. If you see yourself as someone who is always waiting, always lacking, always searching, then even when good things come, they may feel temporary, unstable, like they could disappear at any moment. But when you begin to see yourself as someone who is already whole, already worthy, already connected to love, light, and joy, something inside you settles. You no longer chase. You no longer grasp. You begin to receive. And receiving, my dear, is a very different energy. It is open. It is relaxed. It is trusting. It says, I don't need to force this because what is meant for me will find me in the right moment. Take a breath and feel that. What if you didn't have to push so hard anymore? What if you didn't have to carry the weight of making everything happen? What if you could simply align and allow? I know that might feel unfamiliar because you've been taught that effort equals results, that more doing equals more receiving. But there is another way, a quieter way, a more aligned way, where your energy leads and your actions follow, where you act not from urgency, but from clarity, where you move not from fear, but from trust. And this doesn't mean you stop taking action. It means your actions become more intentional, more inspired, more effective, because they are no longer driven by lack. They are guided by alignment. And that is where things begin to flow. Now, I want to gently bring you into something practical, not something complicated, but something simple that you can begin to feel right now. Close your eyes, if that feels comfortable, and take a slow, deep breath in. As you inhale, I want you to silently say to yourself, I am open. And as you exhale, I allow. Just that. I am open. I allow. Let those words land softly within you. No force. No pressure. Just an invitation. Again, slowly. I am open. I allow. And as you repeat this, notice what shifts. Maybe your chest softens a little. Maybe your jaw unclenches. Maybe your mind becomes just a little quieter. That is your body responding. That is your energy beginning to rise. And the more you return to this, the more natural it becomes. You don't need to do it perfectly. You don't need to feel something dramatic. Even the smallest shift matters, because small shifts, repeated gently, create lasting change. Now let me speak to something deeper, something that often goes unnoticed. There may be a part of you, quietly, almost invisibly, that is afraid to fully step into love, light, and joy. And I want you to know that is okay. That part of you is not your enemy. It is a protector. It learned at some point that it was safer to expect less, safer to stay guarded, safer to not fully open in case something goes wrong. And so even as you desire more joy, more love, more ease, there may be a subtle resistance, a hesitation, a quiet voice that says, what if it doesn't last? Take a breath. You don't need to silence that voice. You don't need to fight it. You simply acknowledge it with compassion. You say, I see you, and I understand why you feel this way. And right now, I choose to open anyway, gently, safely, at my own pace. Because healing is not about removing fear completely. It is about learning to move with love, even when fear is present. And as you do this, again and again, that fearful part of you begins to relax. It begins to trust. It begins to realize that it no longer has to hold everything together. And in that trust, more of your natural light begins to emerge. more of your joy becomes accessible. More of your love begins to flow. Not because you forced it, but because you allowed it. And this is the essence of raising your energy. It is not a performance. It is a permission to feel a little lighter, a little more open, a little more at peace, right here, right now. And as you continue on this path, as you gently return to this state again and again, you will begin to notice something beautiful. The things you once chased will begin to come toward you. The clarity you once searched for will begin to arise within you. The peace you once postponed will begin to feel natural, not all at once, but gradually, steadily, inevitably. Because you are no longer waiting for life to change, you are changing the way you meet life. And that, my dear, is where everything begins to transform. Because now, my dear, you are beginning to sense it, aren't you? That quiet shift within you. Not loud, not overwhelming, but subtle, like a gentle sunrise slowly touching the edges of your awareness. And this is where something truly beautiful begins to unfold. You are no longer just listening to these words. You are beginning to feel them. And feeling is where real transformation happens. Take a slow breath with me again. Let it be soft, unforced, natural. And as you breathe out, I want you to notice something very gently. You are here. You made it to this moment. Through everything you've carried, everything you've questioned, everything you've been through, you are still here. And there is something incredibly powerful about that, because it means there is a part of you that has never given up, a part of you that has always been moving, even when you felt stuck, a part of you that has always been guiding you, even when you felt lost. And that part of you is the same part that is guiding you now into more love, more light, more joy. You don't have to search for it. You don't have to become it. You simply begin to listen to it. You begin to trust it. You begin to follow it softly. Let me ask you something, sweetheart. What would it feel like to trust that something within you already knows the way? Not the entire path, not every detail, but the next step, just the next breath, just the next gentle shift. Because life is not asking you to have everything figured out. It's only asking you to stay open enough to receive what comes next. And that becomes so much easier when you are not weighed down by resistance, when you are not constantly questioning, doubting, or rushing ahead, but instead, you are here, present, aware, available. This is what it means to step into light. It's not about escaping darkness completely. It's about no longer being consumed by it. It's about knowing that even when difficult emotions arise, they do not define you. They move through you, like clouds passing through the sky. And you, my dear, are the sky. Wide, open, unshaken at your core. Take that in. You are not your passing thoughts. You are not your temporary emotions. You are not your past experiences. You are the awareness that holds all of it. And when you begin to identify with that awareness, everything softens. You stop fighting yourself. You stop trying to fix every feeling. You begin to allow, and in that allowing, your natural state begins to reemerge. Love, not as something you chase, but as something you are. Light, not as something you seek, but as something you carry. Joy, not as something dependent on circumstances, but as something quietly available within you. And yes, there will still be moments where you forget, moments where you feel heavy again, moments where old patterns resurface. But that doesn't mean you've lost your progress. It simply means you are human. And in those moments, you don't criticize yourself. You don't say, "Why am I back here?" Instead, you gently return again and again and again, like a soft rhythm, like waves returning to the shore. Because every time you return, it becomes easier. Every time you soften, it becomes more natural. Every time you choose love, even in the smallest way, you strengthen that pathway within you. And over time, what once felt difficult begins to feel effortless. What once felt distant begins to feel familiar. What once felt like something you had to practice becomes who you are. Now, I want you to place your attention gently on your heart, not physically, but with your awareness. And just for a moment, feel into that space. You may not feel anything dramatic. That's okay. Just bring your attention there, softly. And as you do, I want you to hear these words, not just in your mind, but in your being. I am safe to feel good. I am safe to open. I am safe to receive love, light, and joy. Let those words settle. No force, no pressure, just a quiet invitation. Again, slowly, I am safe to feel good. I am safe to open. I am safe to receive. And notice, if there is even the slightest shift, a softness, a warmth, a subtle sense of relief, that is your system beginning to trust. That is your energy rising not through effort, but through permission. And my dear, this is something you can return to anytime. In the middle of a busy day, in a quiet moment alone, in a moment of stress or uncertainty, you pause, you breathe, you remember. You don't need perfect conditions to feel better. You create the conditions within you. And as you begin to live this way, gently, consistently, compassionately, your life begins to reflect that inner shift. Not because you forced it, but because you became it. You became the space where love can exist. You became the openness where light can enter. You became the calm where joy can grow. And from that place, everything else begins to align. The right ideas, the right opportunities, the right connections, they meet you where you are, not where you were, not where you feared you might be, but where you are right now in this elevated, softened, open state. And even if things are still unfolding, even if not everything has fallen into place yet, you no longer feel the same urgency because you trust. You trust the timing. You trust the process. You trust yourself. Take one more deep breath with me. Let it be full and gentle and complete. And as you exhale, feel yourself settling into this moment. There is nothing missing here. There is nothing lacking in this breath. Right now, you are okay. Right now, you are held. Right now, you are already stepping into limitless love, light, and joy. Not someday, not later. Now, and the more you return to this, the more you allow this, the more you trust this, the more natural it becomes, until one day you realize you are no longer trying to raise your energy. You are simply living in it, softly, fully, effortlessly, and that, my dear, is the quiet, beautiful transformation that has been waiting for you all along. So stay gentle with yourself, stay open, stay present, and remember, you are already becoming everything you once thought you had to chase, and it's unfolding right here within you.